In this critique, I'm going to be trying to get Winslow to canter on the lunge line. I don't know if I made a video of him being tacked up. I don't remember, but he is wearing the saddle now. And then I think I brought out the stick. I think I had a harder time getting him to go forward. So you saw me working with the flag, and now we're working with the stick and string. Again, way too much pressure here. I need to be going much slower and sequencing those cues. You can see his body language. He's just very annoyed by it, which I don't blame him. He goes from like doing absolutely nothing to just being harassed really quickly. I need to be a lot slower and gentler with sequencing those cues and using and with the amount of pressure that I'm using. So I don't know why he needed to go right into the trot. He really didn't. I'm totally fine with him um, going into it from a walk and then going into the trot. I'm not sure. But then I had him change directions with his shoulders. I mean, that looks better, but I could have taught it in a different way, in a more gentler way than applying a bunch of pressure to get his shoulders to move over. But at the time, it was a thing to get the horse to trot and then move his shoulders over while he was trotting. And I was like, that's not something that I do anymore. That's not really a necessary movement for me, but I guess it was at the time. That was better, but I think the only reason that I was gentler there is because he responded right away. You can see his body language here in this freeze frame, head up, ears back. Um, yeah, lots of pinned ears right here. You can see head up to kind of get away from that string because that's worrying him, that's scaring him. So head up. Um, but again, I have to do a bunch of desensitizing because I'm using these tools, the stick and string, the whip, the flag, whatever, to chase him, to scare him, and so then I have to go back and be like, oh, look, it's not scary all the time. But that usually doesn't work because I'm just holding on to him. So he's like, that's why we always have to do that. It's always asking him to go forward and then desensitizing, 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 and it's not actually desensitizing. I'm just kind of flooding him there because I'm holding him and like making him stand there for it. So that's why a horse never gets really can never get over it sometimes, and they're always afraid of it. Or if I'm just kind of randomly throwing the string on him and it scares him, like he's not going to think I'm a trustworthy person. If I'm hanging out with someone and they think it's hilarious to like hide and pop out or scare me with stuff, like I'm probably not going to think they're super trustworthy unless I love that kind of thing. That's kind of a human emotion. But in general, like I'm going to be watching that person be like, that guy is a trickster, a prankster, whatever. Like I would watch out for that because there's always the option of them hiding and trying to scare me. And from a prey animal's perspective, that's even worse. So I find that we get a lot more done by just being very predictable for the horse. So like if I'm predictable, even if something scary happens in the environment, they know that I'm going to be predictable about it. So you have a much higher chance of being successful with your horse like that. So I get him into a canter a little bit there. I probably need to get a longer lunge line. He seems like he needs a little bit more room to move. At this point in time, I don't have access to a round pen. Winslow is very like behind your leg essentially. Like he doesn't want to go forward. He's like what you would call in the regular horse world like dull, lazy, doesn't want to go forward, whatever. So I'm trying to get him into that canter, and he's just rushing his way into the canter, really extended, pulling away, head pulling over, hips swinging out, rushing, tail swishing, cantering, all kinds of stuff. It's just a big mess, really. Um, yeah, so it's not pretty, and this is very common with natural horsemanship, with just regular training, whatever, traditional horsemanship, is chasing them into canter, and then I can see that. I used to do that obviously right here and then building on it. But the part about it is that you can do this in a much easier way and you can have it pretty correct from the beginning so that you don't really have to get through all of this stuff where your horse is on the wrong lead and he's leaning and he's got his head turned and he's dragging you and it's all this big mess. If I just like with my Mustangs, if you watch their stuff, I have the around the round pen, so just like barriers that they go around, or in my round pen and they follow a target, and I can have the canter in there offering me the canter on a correct lead, not collected, but more correct. So like they're at liberty, they're not dragging me, they're not pulling on the lead rope. There's none of that. They just offer the canter and they roll into it. it's so much easier. It's not perfect, you know, but it's a lot better than this. Like you can see him swinging out. We're on the wrong lead again. He's really pushing through that shoulder. I mean, the big problem with cantering on the lunge line is they're trying to get away from you into somewhere else. So a lot of the time they're going to get that outside lead because they're thinking about leaving. So right, especially here, he's like, I want to get away from me and the whip and the pressure. And also they think like the gait leads to like salvation. Like if I go out here, there's no pressure. So you get a lot of those not counter canter, wrong leads, crossfiring, stuff like that. So there we kind of happen to maybe get the correct lead, or maybe we're crossfiring. But yeah, a lot of that happens from that. I see that quite a bit. So, and then you can see we have to do more desensitizing because I've been chasing him with the whip. Very high head. Just really nothing very positive is happening for here, you know. Like we're getting some of the canter and we're getting him to move forward, but it is not pretty and it's not good mentally or like biomechanically. Here you can see him really swinging that shoulder out there. I think we're on the correct lead there. That was the best canter that we've had. I think we end on that one. So that was better, but you could see how long it took us to get there. And then like all of that other mess that can hurt them mentally and definitely physically. So we kind of want to avoid all of that stuff, and it's really not necessary.